Okay, so week 3 is over, or week 4 is concluded. I'm not sure how it works out, but um, but we are on to vlog 4. I can definitely confirm that much. So I have finished my first 2 smart targets. I didn't hit them by any margins. I was quite far off. I mean, just immediately, I think the issue there was that I didn't give myself a reasonable target. I set to change about 8 hours of gameplay already, and was attempting to change those stats by 5% in a week, which is just an unreasonable task for anybody to try and accomplish. Um, I should have maybe went for something more reasonable along the lines of like 2%. Even then, I did fail. I still would have failed. I think my priorities still weren't set properly. And my methodology on how I was achieving this was just out of place. I should have been listening to what Mick said, um, which is focusing on a few key factors each game and using these key factors to then improve specific areas, moving them from the active brain thought process to the instinctive brain thought process, which is something that I researched into, a multitasking theory, um, which is very good because it does kind of gives more merit to the idea of um, contextual data tracking, which is obviously always a bonus. Um, Also, something that I noticed was that I maybe could have still tracked to see if that my average smart target scores were being reached just by the games that I had played in that time. The issue was that I hadn't dated the moment that I started focusing on trying to improve the specific smart target, which again obviously made it very hard to try and track because I had no idea when the start point was. Um, Another thing is that my baseline for this KPI, because after I finished my smart targets, I decided to give tank a break because I realized that my mental and my focus was not at its best. So I decided that to just give it a break until today, um, to just allow myself a bit of recovery time and to um, just allow myself to be able to play the game a little bit more freely without feeling the need to be constantly grinding. And I don't enjoy playing the quick play mode, so I thought I'd play some DPS games instead. What I did find out though is that my baseline is now affected by that, so my stats may be a little bit skewed. So moving forward, if I want a relaxed game in competitive, I move that over to an alt account for the course of this. Um, I have also been considering, would using my alt account be beneficial for the final week? If I was to grind it up to the same level, because of it's got less hours, so I'd be able to see where my baseline stats were when I started and where my baseline stats are now that I've finished. So maybe that could be something that has some sort of merit to it, because obviously it's tough to change baseline stats when you've already poured so many hours into the game anyway. Like having 8 hours roughly, which translates to about 40 games on each hero, does kind of make it a little bit more difficult to try and alter stats and make your stats improve and allow for very easy gameplay change and gameplay improval. Um, I need to capture some scrim gameplay as well. After I analysed my survey, it said that a lot of people were saying that scrims are beneficial. All of them said scrims are beneficial actually, and that they're useful in some way or another in terms of improving, whether that be team based or whether that be individually. So I do already scrim, but I need to capture some footage of how exactly a scrim environment works. On the lead shot call, We get Mick in between rounds feeding us new information to help us improve on the spot. We get perspective of what other people need to improve on from listening to Mick and from listening to other people, which obviously gives me more in-depth information because as a tank, part of my job is understanding everybody's function and everybody's role. If I can't understand everybody's function and I can't understand everybody's intentions and roles, then I don't know how to play the role properly. Because as a tank, it is a very crucial and fundamental idea and thought process. I also, from analysing the survey, found that not many people actually track stats. And when talking about how to improve, unless I prompted the idea of using stats for improvement, stats were not brought up in the idea of improvement from these people. And these people were people who are in the above average SR range mostly. There was about 6 people saying diamond, 1 master and 1 grandmaster, and there was suggestions when I asked for stats as well. When I suggested what statistics should be tracked to be able to improve, and a few people responded with some tank information which I can feed into my work. But another thing that I found interesting was that some people didn't even answer then with statistics, but they still answered with contextual ideas and baselines, and just overall they didn't necessarily answer with statistics or answering in stuff that maybe wouldn't be viewed as valuable, but considering everything that Mick is telling me, maybe it is really being seen that contextual things aren't trackable and they are maybe less relevant in Overwatch. Um, there was also another person who mentioned the idea of tracking statistics when I asked about statistics, but then also brought up themes of contextual data which can't be tracked, which is interesting to me, as there is no there's no denying that they understood what the question was and that they understood everything. They just simply um, also felt that a form of contextual data, and I believe it was either um, timing of when to peel as a tank or positioning. There was also cooldown management, which are all things that you would need either to look at in an evaluative manner with background information and a critical sense about it, or would need somebody who has got background knowledge, such as Mick or just any other coach, to look at your gameplay. A lot of what was suggested for improvement was more to do with VOD review than to do with statistic searching. Whether that be VOD review personally self-assessing, or whether that be VOD review having somebody else look at your work, such as Mick or an external coach, or just somebody who's a higher rank in general, just having 1 or 2 people to just look at your work or look at your gameplay was another thing that people pointed out. So I do think I am, in a sense, on the right track. With Mick, obviously, I've been getting VOD reviews with set smart targets. I've managed to coerce him into giving me a smart target that isn't extremely difficult to track or requires much relevant or requires any sort of research to be able to back up this method. So I have a simple, structured, set out smart target which I can use without any question. Whether or not I'll be able to implement this, we don't know, but I'm going to use the instinctive to active brain method to be able to help benefit myself. And hopefully using this method will be able to push my gameplay to the point of being able to hit these smart targets. And depending on how much game time I get in, as I'm going to try my hardest to, I've got from today until Monday to be able to get as much gameplay as possible. So Thursday to Monday, and then on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it will become tougher as I don't really have any chance to get any data. So it will be a case of whether or not I can hit the smart target due to just being able to change that much data. The smart target also is a little bit reaching because it will require me to alter my overall details, which is already 20 games on Winston. So potentially overshooting, but we'll find out in a week's time. Besides that, though, I would say it is an overall optimistic week. I wasn't happy that I missed the smart targets, but I know where I've faulted, which was I wasn't focusing on these things. There was a meta change as well, which is something that I haven't noticed, which I haven't mentioned yet, even, which is Zarya and less Sigma, as Sigma was never really meta anyway, but Zarya is definitely no longer meta, which meant that I was playing less Zarya games. I was playing Monkey a lot more because Monkey was the stronger hero. Monkey was featured in a lot of Overwatch League, and this meta change meant that I was also playing less of the hero which I'd already set a smart target for. So going forward, I've got a Monkey smart target or a Winston smart target instead, and I'm going to be working on how to improve my Winston, and hopefully we should see some form of improvement. But besides that, it will just be an optimistic looking week. Hopefully, I can get enough game time in, especially tomorrow, because tomorrow is a free day for me. So, how much time we can get in? Probably around near to 3 hours, I'd assume. Potentially more, depending on schedule. So, I'm going to try be up early and playing the game as much as possible. And that will be another thing that I'm going to be trying to improve on from last week as well, is just more game time. So that is a lot of information, but mostly all optimistic. So hopefully it can stay that way for next week, or it can be a positive week for once. So.